Trevor, thanks for joining me today. For Escape Room Daily, we're really focused on building up the community around escape rooms. And your experience in tech and in escape rooms kind of caught my eye. And so maybe just to start off with, you can just kind of give a little bit of background about who you are and what you do day to day today, and maybe what your connection with escape rooms and the escape room industry was.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my name's Trevor Kaak, and I'm founder of Atlas Unchained Business Development. So we try to help businesses, especially local and startups, from everything that they need, from websites and SEO in particular to strategic marketing plans and resources and consulting as they go. Aside from that, I was very involved in the escape room industry for a good while. I helped really build an escape room from one of our first locations, moving that location to a better spot, to 6 locations nationwide, from Orange County to Monterey to New York. So it was really an adventure, and I got to practice a lot of the skills for my business here that I really wanted to grow into at the time, helping with the escape room. So a lot of those fundamentals that I do every day now really formed their foundation back at the escape room.
Nice. So do you remember your first experience with escape rooms or the escape room industry in general?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. So, I mean, when I met the owner of the escape room that I worked at, I was a teller at a bank, and it just happened to be the bank that he worked at. It was banking is fine, but not the most exciting day-to-day operations. And he was coming in with this escape room, and we vibed. I've always known I kind of had an entrepreneurship path in me. So getting to talk to him and hear what he's doing, we kind of just formed a connection. And from there, we talked about maybe employment because, like I said, I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn business, and I knew it would be a good opportunity to learn a lot of those things and have hands-on experience. And I mean, from there, he invited me out to play, of course. So, I took my family out. We played Sherlock's Study, a classic Sherlock Holmes room. And it was a blast. It's something that even to this day, a lot of people haven't necessarily tried, but every single time that they do, it's just like a mind-opening experience where it's like, wow, that was a blast. You had no idea what to expect going into it.
Yeah. Have you played a lot of escape rooms besides the ones that you sort of worked in or ran?
I've always had a hard time justifying going out and spending money at other competitors. However, I definitely enjoyed the experience. I've played a number of other ones, but definitely more into the building and playing the ones that we've had. So I played a handful, but mostly focused on ours.
And so, given your current background, your business development kind of background, what is it about this particular business model or idea really captured your attention? Like, did you see 10 years into the future of like, this is going to be huge, or what was it that drew you to it?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, a lot of it was the experience and the education and getting to learn from someone to some extent. And the other part was just how exciting and new the industry was. There was, once again, nobody else doing this at the time, especially where we were located. Like I said, there was probably a few others out there, but nobody else was doing it. And that, brand new opportunity and getting to that chance to play it and experience it. And also back then, they were much more basic, simpler than they are now. So to be able to have that enjoyment from such a basic experience that nobody else has really gotten to go through, that definitely screams opportunity. Hey, these are definitely going to be coming around. I think we have a chance to grow this and here or there. So, I mean, it's an enticing industry with a lot of fun. There's not too many industries where you get to grow a sustainable, powerful business and enjoy doing it. Whether you're running the escape rooms or whether you're owning it and creating them, like getting to interact with the clients, to interact with the gameplay and the technology. Like, there's so much to it that's so much better than so many other industries.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on it, right? Coming from banking, which is it's I'm not going to say boring, but it's stable. You do a lot of the same things day in and day out. The escape room industry is varied in what you might have to do every day. Maybe one day you're fixing rooms. I mean, the other day you're working on the business itself, or that kind of thing. What about that? Like, what lessons would you say you learned about business? Are there big key takeaways about how to run an escape room business that you kind of picked up on?
I mean, there's so many fundamental points in particular. So it's really just kind of balancing a little bit of everything. Where's your starting point? Creating the rooms is its own foundational piece. The business and the marketing are a whole other piece. It's really hard to, I guess, pick one to dial in on offhand.
Okay. So you mentioned marketing. It's something
Mhm.
I'm really interested in. And so do at that point, did you have that experience, like the more web development or business development marketing side of things in your background, or it is something that you learned on the job?
I had a foundational basis, self-taught. So during high school, I had started to build websites when I was probably about 16. I built trevorkaak.com, right? Got to claim that domain. But from there, it turns into, well, you build the website. Now, how do you get people here? Well, that turns into SEO, emails, social media, and everything like that. So from a young age, like I said, I had already built a few different websites and done a number of different things. I definitely knew I had an interest in it, and it let me explore and kind of take some of those things to the next level. Do some of the email marketing, handle a lot of the social media, try some paid ads, and get a lot more just in-depth experience into almost every nuance because we were so small that I was the senior member as far as experience-wise in almost any of these areas. So it was just me and the owner and maybe a couple other people, depending on what we were talking about, involved in actually handling it.
Did you find that there was one of those avenues in relation to that? You kind of mentioned like SEO or paid ads and email marketing. Were any of those more effective than other ones in the growth of the business?
Um, I'd say the two kind of key takeaways or points that are foundationals to success are the experience. You need to have a great experience, and that might not sound like marketing, but in the escape room industry in particular, the reviews are huge. There's not many other industries where reviews are so powerful and so necessary. So that could be Yelp reviews in particular in SoCal, or TripAdvisor during, through a lot of the rest of the country, and of course Google. And they each have their pluses and their minuses depending on where you're located and what your goals are. But I think the experience itself comes down to a lot of the marketing, and that's not just the room, but that's from when they walk in the door to when they see your location, the branding, the presentation, the staff. So I think that plays probably one of the biggest factors in the escape rooms is the experience from start to finish to even after and follow up to get them to play your other rooms, etc. And one of the other most powerful, I mean, I would say local impact, being involved in your community. I think it's something that a lot of business owners, not just escape room related, but across the spectrum are not as focused on as they should be, but local chambers of commerce, networking groups. So we got very involved with like the Your Belinda chamber here, and we hit a few of the other ones around, here and there, depending on what we had going on. And being able to invite them out or host specific events and tie into the corporate side of things. There's a lot of escape rooms who are very focused on just the retail side and just the, getting the consumers, but there's also a huge B2B market if you got people reading that aren't aware of that for corporate team building events. Those can be a full Tuesday where normally you'd have nobody in, that you have 100 people plus extra bonuses. So I'd say those are two of the biggest impacts that we saw.
And do you think seeing the escape room industry grow as it has, do you still kind of follow up with it, keep kind of a pulse on what it's doing, or is more your focus on just your current business?
I try to stay involved. So I've got some friends still in the industry, and then I've got some clients still in the industry as well that hire me out for some of their web development and marketing and booking support and things like that for all their IT. So I keep a hand in it, and I certainly enjoy it, but I'm not nearly as involved into which companies are doing what on the day to day. I love to see the technology, especially on LinkedIn. We've got some great connections to see like some of the things that they're developing, which is, I mean, truly incredible. It's great.
Do you see in the amount that you follow up with the industry, do you see any gaps that people are kind of missing in escape room ownership, like any marketing opportunities or different things that people aren't doing that you see as like a growth minded activity?
Uh, I'd say I think a lot of business owners are not doing enough marketing in general. Their email lists alone, if you're not sending out an email a month or an email a week, that's just missed opportunity there. Most of your people probably have not played all your rooms, not for discounts on weekdays and things like that. Additionally, I'd say just lack of additional revenue streams. So there's more than just the ticket price, but finding different ways to build on just the escape room experience. Like I said, one of our clients up in Monterey, they've got the escape room, and then at an additional location, they have an escape room that also has an arcade and pizza, which enables them to do a lot more as far as birthday parties, other events, and things like that. So just when you're building out your escape room, don't necessarily just think about what rooms you can put in there if you're finding a new location. Now, it's obviously hard when you're already established, but a lot of times there's a lot more opportunities that you can pursue besides let's just add on another room, let's just add another room, because it really does come down to creating an experience, and additional revenue streams can really balance things out, especially when escape rooms can be kind of hit or miss depending on the season or things like COVID, where that was detrimental, I'm sure, to a number of escape rooms where it just lockdown started. You won't be locked down with sick people. So I think just finding different ways to differentiate their business from more than just an escape room. Here, let's offer some merchandise. Let's offer some t-shirts, because that's branding opportunity and giveaway material. I think there's just a lot of little details that really could be buttoned up in the escape room industry, because so many of these escape room owners are just new business owners that don't have the technical experience or don't have the time, alone to look into. You don't have the time to do everything, right? So it just takes time to really build those cohesive businesses. And that's where I think the industry is lacking a little bit.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. In your time working with escape rooms, do you find that do you have a marketing campaign that you felt like went really well, or a tactic that you use to really achieve the goal of getting more people in the door?
I'd say one that we used, a fair amount, like I said, was the networking events there. So, if we could host a networking event, that cost us basically nothing. And we can invite, 15 to 30 business individuals at a location at basically no cost on a night that we're empty, and offer discounts for their corporate bookings and things like that. So, I mean, they all have teams coming in. And like I said, I think underutilized a lot is that corporate strategy, because they're very often looking for different things to do. And it's such a team building and memorable experience. It really stands out if you can, tack into that. Additionally, like email outbound, we've done some email campaigns specifically to, corporate and things like that. And I think that can be really effective.
A big, obviously, buzzword now is AI and automation, those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you think that, because you had mentioned, it's hard to do everything as an escape room owner. Most of these, really passionate owners are either solopreneurs or something like that, where they're,
Right.
Bootstrapped, and they're just throwing whatever they can at it. Do you think that there's an opportunity or a way for those, for AI or automation to, be incorporated into those businesses from an operational standpoint?
I think for anybody starting a business now, like, it needs to be really, like, there's so much that it can do, and it's getting better and better. And if it can solve one little pain point for you a month, and you can fix that indefinitely, cool. Then you fix the next one. Then you fix the next one. And it can continue relieving operational. Like, it can help with scheduling. It can help with marketing. It can help with creating social media and different things like that. So it takes a little bit of a minute to get comfortable with it, and oftentimes maybe an outside perspective to find your best use cases for it. But there's almost always use cases that will either create more opportunity or reduce your massive headaches. If you can do one of those two things with an hour of time, just saying, how do I solve this problem? We're very involved in, AI and AI integrations, especially nowadays at Atlas Unchained. So it's something that we work with a lot, is building out custom AI agents, which a lot of people still haven't heard the term yet. Have you heard that term yet, Brandon?
Yep. Yeah.
All right, good. There's most of the people not in marketing that I talk to have not heard that. So I've hosted seminars because they just have no idea. And everybody in our industry, it's a day-to-day topic because it's relevant and it's evolving quickly. So helping just get an introduction into that and seeing what it can do for you and figuring out those processes that it can solve and where you want human involvement, it can do a lot. It can't do everything. It's not a golden arrow. It's not going to solve all your problems. But it's getting better and better. And if you're not using it, you're just falling behind and you're shooting yourself in the foot because you don't want to learn something new. They're like, don't let the intimidation scare you off, because to get started, it's not overly complicated, but it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah. I hear people say a lot, like, today is the worst it's going to be. Like, we're already seeing amazing results with AI, but it's only going to get better. Right. So in your time working with escape rooms, did you use any of your development expertise to build tools internally to help with operations, or Is it mostly like, off the shelf kind of software that was built specifically for escape rooms?
No, I mean a little bit of. We didn't really have any off the shelf stuff. I guess everything that we did was pretty darn custom built, and I got to use my expertise to some, and I got to learn some too. So I didn't have as much experience in like the hands-on components. So we had a tech that would come in, and he taught me some of handling the Arduinos and getting to handle some of the programming, with the kinetic touch. So it's like you touch something and it can sense that energy. So I got to learn a lot and have a lot of involvement in that. And then I did do a lot of like our web SEO and back end things like that. But my favorite was probably I did get to build an app that used basically before all this AI stuff, custom AI, or not AI, but image recognition. So you had to find this, solve this riddle, unlock this iPod Touch or whatever device we were using at that location, and then find the image to scan, and it would recognize it once you scanned it and reveal a clue. So that was a pretty fun one to build out because it was just, yeah, building's always fun. It's solving problems. You get one thing to work, but to have a cohesive part that became a part of multiple locations was pretty cool.
So I like that was something you got to build from a software perspective. And I think these days websites are more capable than they ever have been, obviously, to have all sorts of different things. Is there a way to translate some of that in-person experience onto like a public facing website to get people in the mindset to be connected with the kinds of things they might experience once they're in your facility?
I mean, there definitely are, and I think a lot of that comes down to social, having some photos up there and making it really personable. And then just a modern website, if it looks stale, it's not going to look fun. So I
Mm.
think there's a lot that you can do with the design just to make it pop and make it fun, make it that experience from the start. Maybe you have things load a little differently, or but I think the photos, it really comes down to a lot of it, and making the themes and the brand come through as much as you can.
Do you think there's been, I guess, a time on the opposite end of things? Like it sounds like a lot of things went really great, but what I find is with every business, there's ups and downs. Were there any challenges that were hard to overcome, or situations that, you in running the business that was just, you expected one thing and then it just didn't turn out right, that sort of stand out to you?
I mean, I'm sure there was a fair amount. I think you look at things with a little bit of a rose glasses as you look back a little bit. So you try to block out some of the not so fun parts. But there definitely were some, I mean, things go wrong, right? So, I mean, to some extent, that's half the fun after you finish the night, is when you solve a problem like that you weren't expecting, because something goes wrong. So you have to adjust the gameplay and figure it out, especially during corporate events. I mean, staffing issues. There's definitely a number of problems, not to mention, of course, those slower times where you're like, how do we get sales in the door? Do you put the money out or wait for it to come in first? But I'd say it's a lot of little things, a lot of little things on the fly. So I don't think it's as much that sticks out, because here's a corporate event. Oh, this thing broke. Oh, these people need this. Oh,
Mm.
the bathroom's out. It's
Mm.
just all those little day-to-day problems that really add up, but nothing really fundamental.
Do you have any advice that you would give to like a new escape room owner, for example, who doesn't have a marketing background or a web background, or even like you mentioned, running a business may not be something that's in their skill set? Like, how would you talk to them and sort of give them a little bit of hindsight ahead of time?
Yeah, I mean, it's a focus on the core product, the experience, and getting visible local first. Because otherwise, you can spend all the money that you have on ads and you're going to feel very drained and disappointed when nobody's booked that ticket. But if you can focus on reviews and relationships and an experience, I think the business will take it from there, at least to a point where you have the opportunity to dip your toes in other strategies, marketing opportunities. You don't need an amazing website, but if you can have one put together that looks clean and professional, that's very affordable nowadays, especially with AI, you can probably do it yourself. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. You can't be stale, and you can't be non-active. You have to keep pursuing, trying something. You can't be sitting, twiddling your thumbs, waiting for the bookings to come in, because there's things that you can be doing, you can be learning and improving even in the downtime. So just stay active, keep out there, and do the fundamentals right.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've seen escape rooms leveraging like influencer marketing. It seems like a very
Mhm.
popular thing right
Yeah.
now, as well as like other sort of brand crossover partnerships. There's an escape room brand manager I talked to the other day who said that they've worked with big board game companies to implement like a clue room or something like that. So do you see that as something that's going to continue to ramp up as people are looking at IP that people can connect with to bring into those experiences?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. The IP is a little tricky. Everyone uses Sherlock's study because it's public domain, or Sherlock Holmes, or whatever else. But IP, I mean, the opportunity is definitely there because people want those experiences that they can relate to. But the hard part is getting the permit. Like, is the price right for that IP? Depending on if the partnership works, it makes total sense. But if you're paying for IP, you're going to have some real expensive rooms that you're going to have to also justify with the build outside. It's going to have to be an elaborate room, and if you can do it right, fantastic. But you're probably going to be shelling out a fair amount if you're trying to get some specific IP.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. And sort of scale wise, I guess there's a very big difference between, your solopreneur who is doing a grassroots buildup of an escape room versus, it seems like there's a lot of chains out there now who have, dozens and dozens of locations around the country or the globe even. Do you see like a real difference between those kinds of experiences, or, is it really, just a different business model?
I mean, I'd say you can definitely see a difference in experiences for the most part. Like, especially with those solopreneurs, you can see them there. A lot of the times, they don't necessarily have the support and branding and the clean, the spotless environment. Whereas the corporate chains, I feel like you definitely have a little bit more structure to, and because they're still not all over those places, I'd say those chains certainly have a little bit of an advantage. Hey, we have our structure; we can go pop it here and make it all nice. Whereas the solopreneurs are going to have a little bit harder time, especially in a competitive market like down here in SoCal where I'm at. There's some established players, and it's going to cost you. There's still definitely opportunity because again, people only play so many. They have only played so many rooms, and they only can. And those are experienced and want to try them all. They'll come try yours too. There's still opportunity, but the chains I think definitely have an advantage with their structure, and the games are pretty duplicatable. If they've played them in New York, they haven't played them over here. You just bring the same rooms without having to rebuild everything from scratch.
Mm.
That being said, that doesn't mean that there's not solopreneurs that have done it amazingly as well and have a great environment and everything else being said. But I think they have a lot harder time, hitting all the buttons on the head when they're trying to do it all themselves.
How important in this industry do you see brand recognition or like a clean brand? Someone may have a totally just homegrown website where they, throw it together and it has enough information, it works, but it's not, like you said, as polished. It's not, they don't have like a clean logo. It's just something that they threw together in Microsoft Word or something.
Yeah.
Like how important is that to stand out in this market for escape rooms?
I think it can go a long way in looking professional. When people are coming to your escape room, they want to know that the rooms are put together well with a certain amount of quality. So if your website's not reflecting that quality, I think you're going to have trouble. Now, if your rooms are amazing and have blown the reviews off the roof, then sure, it won't impact you too much. I think really having a polished and clean online presence in general is going to, speak tenfold to your sales. The cost is nowhere near what the payout is. Like, it's totally deserved to invest in it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you see technology, like obviously the escape room industry has grown in the types of rooms. You kind of mentioned this earlier. You've got the ones that are basic lock and keys. You've got now ones that are, touch sensors on the wall or whatever. Do you see that technology being more incorporated? Like, are we seeing a growth towards more technology as things like, AI and AR and, all those things become more ubiquitous around the industry? Do you think they're going to be showing up in escape rooms?
I mean, 100%. I think the technology gets more and more well developed and easier for people to make in general as the AI it develops, especially. I don't think it's going to be all, oh, we're staring at a screen touching, because I think you need that tactile feel, but there's other ways to unlock things besides let me put this key in here. Like, there's definitely something satisfying about that. But there's so many other amazing experiences that you can create. So if your imagination is limitless and you can unlock something by pressing a different way or doing something else, I think there's a lot to be said for that technology component because it has more of that wow factor. The key is fun, but it doesn't have the same wow factor.
Yeah. As an escape room owner, do you think it's really important to have your really hands in the building of what you're actually, providing to your players? Or I've seen some escape room suppliers that are like pre-built components that you just kind of place in the room, all that kind of stuff. Like, do you think it's important to be hands-on with your tech so that you can either fix it or, understand how it works?
I mean, to some extent, I think that comes with your level of scale. It's going to make a lot more sense for a solopreneur to know how something works and be able to address it than it is for a chain. However, that being said, a chain's going to have a much more easy time doing a custom build out than a solopreneur. So it's a little bit of a balance of both. Like, to what fits your cost and what fits the room. You have to make sure, like, even if you're getting these built-in pieces, you have to put the room together in a way that you're creating that experience, regardless of whether you know how to fix it or not. If you don't know how to fix it, you better have a backup. That's all
Yeah.
I gotta say. Like, if you don't know how to fix it, you better have a backup or two, depending on how long it takes to order, because either that or you need to be able to fix it or come up with an alternative. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's what it is. It's we have an alternative in place because this has happened and we had to figure it out on the fly, but now we know how to at least resolve it moving forward. We have some way to buy time until we can really get the experience fixed and back to its full.
So if you had a glass ball and you could
Mhm.
basically look into the future, like what kind of what kind of are the next things you would expect to see out of the industry in general?
Yeah, I mean, more and more technology integration. Aside from that, I think we're going to see a lot more probably like VR, escape rooms where they can put on the headset and do it all kind of within a confined space. I'd say that might be a next step because it's going to be a lot more conducive to the space that you're using. I think less fun, but also I think they're getting pretty good. Like you said, the technology is only getting better and better. Aside from that, more and more online marketing as far as the business side is concerned, you got to stay on top of the technology. Like, I know you can't, AI is a buzzword and you can't follow everything that you hear as AI, but you need to dedicate some time here and there to at minimum interacting with it. There's a lot of use cases from, once again, ChatGPT, just making it really easy to speed you up in a lot of ways to ways that you can really efficiently prioritize your business.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. From the website perspective, again, because the solopreneurs, I think that's sort of more the audience that I'm thinking about right
Great.
now is, they know they need a website, right? They know they need some
Hmm.
basic functionality for that. What are the things that they should be tracking from a business perspective? Like how are they able to see like how the health of my business is based on either the website or the traffic to the website or their marketing efforts? How does all that come together?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got to get it set up in the first place. So, I mean, Google Analytics is a solid start if you're really trying to get a good eye of how people are interacting with your website, what pages they're going to, and potentially the sources and where they're coming from. I think getting people into Google Search Console for their SEO and being able to see kind of what search rankings they're showing up for and being able to visualize that can have a lot of impact because SEO is another sleeping giant that I think a lot of escape rooms have not invested in, which kind of leaves it a little bit of a blue ocean. If someone, were to come in, I like to build out city specific landing pages and things like that.
I think you and I both have a understanding of, what are the metrics that you're looking at? What
Mm.
are the ways to predict where your business is going to be this month, next month, and maybe 6 months down the road based
Mhm.
on some of those things. And, someone who doesn't have maybe they're technical with their hands building with Arduino, like you said before, but they're not really like web savvy.
Mhm.
So what are those markers? I guess that's kind of what I'm looking for them to like just be able to track those KPIs, the key performance indicators, to let them know that what they're doing is good.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, ultimately it comes into having all of your sources tied in. And the biggest one to really probably track more than your website would be your booking software. Which rooms are booking, which days are booking. Can we improve sales on a slow day by offering a discount, a Monday through Thursday discount or something like that? Um, Aside from that, yeah, Google Analytics, if you're going to tie in, you can see where everybody's coming from, Facebook and the pages to jump from there. Your email marketing again is going to have its own kind of analytics dashboard, but I'd really be tying into that email marketing because I think that's under leveraged. So if you're going to have a good idea for, once again, what messaging works and things like that, you'll get a good idea for that there. Every dashboard, there's so many dashboards. I think having a solid partner to kind of guide you in the right direction, depending on what your focus is, and where you're going to spend your time. Because again, you're not going to start by marketing to all channels all at once. It's, hey, which channels are we focusing in? And then, all right, how do we dial that into a dashboard or two so you can really see a cohesive look at how things are going?
Nice. Okay. Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. Okay. So I have a couple like bonus questions. They're not really like marketing, whatever, but I think they're kind of fun. Do you have, based on your experience, when we kind of talked before this, you said like you had a lot of experience coming really from the start of an escape room, working through being a game master or a manager, general manager. As part of doing that, I talked to someone the other day and they said being a game master is almost being like a professional people watcher. So you get to see people do crazy things or try to solve things in weird ways. Is there something that you can think of just in your history of watching all those people all the time that somebody tried to solve something in a weird way, or, like anything, like you learned about the human condition basically by watching people play escape rooms?
Man, I wish I had more to jump straight to my mind. I know there were so many good ones where you're like, what are you doing? I mean, to some extent, they're just stubbornness. Like some people just willingness not to ask for help and to die on the stand because they just don't want any help is one. Like you'll see corporate groups and I mean, you'll have one person or two people that just don't want to ask for help and let the whole team die because they can't come to an agreement. I'd say the other just most interesting, one of the most interesting things for me though is the dynamic that anybody can play it and succeed. And sometimes we would have kids' birthday parties that would make it out in almost record time. And then once again, you'd have the corporate group that cannot solve it. So, but vice versa, you can have adults that solve it and kids don't. It just totally comes down to the experience and who's playing and your way of thinking, that it can be a totally different game for each person playing it.
I think that's so true. I've seen a lot of people talk about how seeing people play rooms really gets them to think about how people have such different perspectives on things that you may be like, this is a no-brainer. But suddenly it's the most difficult math equation that anyone has ever solved in the history of the world for a specific group. So I think that's something that I've taken away from it, is understanding that we all think differently. We all have different skill sets, all that kind of stuff. Do you have, when you were working at the escape room, was there like a go-to digital or web-based or something tool that really you couldn't have run the operation without?
I mean, we use Checkfront for our booking software. And I mean, that was everything, that we needed all in one, basically. So I got to know the ins and outs of that real well. I would say we didn't use too many other specific digital platforms. I'd say we probably used MailChimp for the most part for our email marketing, WordPress for our actual website hosting, but not too many other specific like dashboards or go-to places.
Okay, awesome. Well, I think that's all the questions I have for you today. So I appreciate you taking time out of your day to go through this with me. I think you've shared some great insights and strategies for different escape room owners to keep in mind as they're running their business. Is there any final context that you can add, or where people can kind of find you to get in touch about what you offer?
Yeah, absolutely. They're more than welcome to find me at atlasunchained.com, Trevor at atlasunchained.com if you want to email me directly. I'm more than happy to help. Like I said, I love helping people get started. We have a pay it forward. So if something seems unaffordable, I'm more than happy to figure something out so we can make it work for you. But don't forget your digital presence because it is going to be crucial. That and your local presence are going to be the two keys to your foundation.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time, and I'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Brad. It's a pleasure meeting you.